Aaron was driving his Model 3 in Melbourne, Australia, when the driver of a van lost control and crashed into him. They both pulled over, and the other driver apologized profusely, agreeing that it was his fault without even watching the footage. Luckily, the police arrived quickly to confirm that nobody was hurt. The repairs to Aaron's Tesla took 3 months and cost just over 21,000 Australian dollars, or almost 15,000 US dollars. When Aaron got his car back from the shop, he decided to play a prank on his friend while they were on a road trip. They had to throw away some trash, so they quickly stopped at a gas station where they pulled up behind an identical white Model 3. Aaron's friend jumped out and went for the trash can. Aaron wanted to see if he could fool his friend by quickly moving in front of the identical Model 3. Since electric cars are so quiet, the trick worked. Everyone had a good laugh. According to YouTube, only 18% of those who watch our videos are actually subscribed. If you like our content, please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to us. We'll be donating $1 to Team C's for each new subscriber this video gets, up to $1,000. Just by hitting that red button, you can help take a bag of trash as big as this one out of the ocean. On with the show. This submitter asked us to call him Still Cool with Oil, but we're not sure what's so cool about that. Anyway, he was driving his Model Y down the road in Vancouver, Canada, and just as he crossed an intersection, a woman in a Toyota drove into him. The other driver was a new driver, and she had a completely different idea of what had happened. She thought he was turning left at the intersection and that he had hit her. Mr. Oil shared the footage with his insurance company, and within hours they told him he wasn't at fault. Without the Teslacam video, he would have had to submit a lengthy report. They were both able to drive away from the scene of the accident, and he's still waiting for a cost estimate from Tesla for the repairs. Dave was driving his Model Y home in Rochester, Minnesota, when a driver tried to pass some cars on the shoulder and ended up hitting a truck. Dave stopped and checked on both drivers, and everyone was okay. He shared the Teslacam video with the police and the driver of the truck, who appreciated his help. Steven was in a McDonald's parking lot waiting for his food when he heard the sound of tires screeching. He approached the parties involved in the collision and gave them his contact info, letting them know that he had footage of the accident. Later that day, the parent of the Volkswagen driver contacted him asking for the footage. It turned out that the young driver who had been rear-ended had just gotten his license that day. What a way to start your driving career! Caden was on his way to his girlfriend's house in Fort Worth, Texas, when a car he was passing suddenly sped up and matched the speed of his Model 3. At first he didn't think anything of it, but then the other car swerved around traffic to keep up with him. Suddenly, the other driver dropped back slightly in the middle lane. A second later, Caden looked in his mirror and saw the headlights turning. At first he thought they were making a U-turn on the freeway, but when he watched the footage later, he saw this crash. Since Caden didn't know an accident had happened until later when he was at his girlfriend's house, he didn't stop to check on the drivers. By the time he got back, the wreckage had already been cleared away. This submitter was driving in Norway late one night. We can hardly see it in the video, but he noticed a shadow crossing between the two speed signs. He slowed down to make sure he had control if the moose made any sudden moves. Now, here comes the really scary part when a second moose entered on the left, and he couldn't see it as the lights from the oncoming car had blinded him. Luckily, the moose made it across without causing any accidents, but the submitter says his heart was racing at plaid speed. Robert had parked his Tesla outside a movie theater in Rogers, Arkansas, and when he got back, he found this Sentry Mode video. Two guys were extremely happy to see a Tesla and took several selfies with it. We're guessing their dad is thinking he should have sprung for a Tesla instead. Nate was driving his Model 3 in Greenville. In South Carolina, not in Roblox. He was driving behind a truck that was billowing smoke, and right behind the truck was a police cruiser. The truck changed lanes, probably in an attempt to stop smoking out the police, but the police car followed him, and then they just kept on driving like this. Nate was so focused on what was going on between the truck and the police that when another truck entered the highway with construction material strapped to the roof, he wasn't really paying attention to them. The material bent back as the truck accelerated before flying across multiple lanes. Nate had to dodge some of the debris that came into his lane. Luckily, no damage occurred to Nate's car, and the original smoky truck was eventually pulled over a few exits up the road. On the evening of November 21st, 2021, at around 12:30 a.m., two of Scott's neighbors arrived home. They drove by in their BMW and seemed to be checking out his Tesla that was charging at his dedicated charging spot. Right after this, they went into action, walking all the way across the parking lot to the parked Model Y. The woman began attempting to unplug the vehicle while the man served as a lookout. When the Tesla lasers went off, the man walked away before going to check his mail. The lady then gave up and also began walking away. But then she turned her attention back to the Model Y and continued to pull on the charging handle. Frustrated, she slapped the charge port door down onto the charger. That's when she set her eyes on the charger itself. Picking it up, she unplugged it from the outlet and tossed it to the ground. Scott has since contacted the police and made a report. He's also reached out to the apartment complex and sent them the video. The two in question have received a violation. This submitter had parked his Model 3 in Oslo, Norway when, as he puts it, Uncle Fester tried to steal his license plate. The submitter managed to repair it himself. He reported the incident to the police, but a week later he received a letter saying that they wouldn't be investigating as their caseload is already exceeding their capacity. Scott had parked his Model 3 in New Bremen, Ohio, when a bun delivery truck at a restaurant pulled away without proper clearance. The rear ladder damaged his Tesla. Scott happened to be nearby and heard his alarm going off. He filed a claim with the truck driver's insurance company. The estimate for the repair cost is $10,400 US, and repairs could take up to 7 weeks to complete. Watch what happened as Neil was merging onto I-680 with his turn signal on. Neil blasted his horn when he realized the truck was right beside him, but it was too late. The first thing the truck driver said was, "You hit me." Just as the accident occurred, a police cruiser was passing them, and Neil thought, great, now they can help us determine who's at fault. Unfortunately, he didn't stop, so Neil and the other driver just agreed to disagree and filed their own separate insurance reports. They're currently waiting for the insurance companies to determine who's at fault. Neil wants the Wham Bam viewers to leave a comment telling him what they think. Who's at fault, Neil or the truck driver? Peter was in pole position at a red light with a Mustang on his right. When the light turned green, he pulled off and sped up to the speed limit. The Mustang was huffing and puffing trying to keep up with the Tesla, and when Peter reached the speed limit and stopped accelerating, the Mustang finally started to catch up. That's when Peter noticed a pickup truck pulling a trailer that was turning right in front of them. Peter swerved around it as he also had a BMW right on his tail. The BMW followed Peter's lead, but the Mustang plowed straight into the back of the trailer. Peter says that since he was already running late for work, he didn't pull over, but a coworker that passed the same area a couple of minutes later told him that everyone was okay and that he'd seen the Mustang driver standing next to his car. Alex was driving his Model Y in San Antonio, Texas. As he approached a traffic light, he saw a Dodge Charger fleeing from the police. The officers quickly jumped into their car and took off after him through a parking lot. After that, we're not really sure what happened. Here's another video from Caden in Fort Worth, Texas. This time, he was driving in a lane that was merging into the left lane. He confesses he made a tight merge, and the driver behind him was not happy about it. The other driver quickly drove into the opposing lane and cut in front of Caden, scratching his left fender. Later, Caden quickly sped around and got in front of him, forcing the other driver to slow down. When they stopped at the next traffic light, a screaming match ensued. We don't have any footage of this, but Caden says the other guy jumped out of his car, and Caden yelled, "I have a knife!" That's when the other guy jumped back into his car and drove off. John had pulled up to an intersection when some lady walked up and had a very strange reaction to his car. John isn't sure what was up with her, and when he drove off, she kicked the air. This is actually one of the funniest videos we've seen so far on this channel. Mick's friend was laughing at him because a squirrel had run into the wheel of Mick's Tesla. Mick tapped on the car to get him out, and 2 squirrels came running out, with one running right up his friend's leg. Karma was served quickly that day. Lokesh had parked his Model 3 outside a store in Burlington, Massachusetts when Sentry Mode caught this video of a guy trying to activate Sentry Mode. What he didn't know was that Sentry Mode was already running and filming all of his sweet karate moves. Billy was driving in the leftmost lane at the speed limit on I-87 in New York when he noticed a BMW in the middle lane quickly approaching him from behind. At the very moment the BMW passed Billy's Tesla, it switched into Billy's lane, without using its turn signal, typical BMW, almost sideswiping him. Then it sped up, almost rear-ending the car in front before changing lanes again. What the driver didn't know was that there happened to be an NYPD car in the traffic, and the BMW was quickly pulled over. Billy's guessing the driver got a speeding ticket and maybe even a reckless driving citation. YouTube thinks you'll like watching this video next. Let's see if they're right.